Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Fauna Restaurant in beautiful Westhampton Beach and today's Express Sessions event. My name is Gavin Manu. I'm the publisher of the Express News Group. We publish the Southampton Press, the East Hampton Press, the Sag Harbor Express, and the website 27east.com. Today's Express Sessions event is the last of a five-part series. There was some confusion that it was the last of our events this year, but we did a series called Local Matters, which is a little different than what we usually do. Usually we kind of zoom in on a specific topic, but we often found that people wanted to talk about some other things and mix it up or whatever was on their mind that day. So, we did a survey to our readers, got some ideas, and certainly we want to hear if there's time to talk about whatever might be on your mind today. So it's a little bit different, but it's we're still going to focus on the important issues of the day. And we have this wonderful group of panelists that I will introduce in a moment. I first want to thank, obviously, everybody here at Fauna Restaurant. They're really gracious hosts of ours, and I appreciate them having us here today. I also want to thank a group of sponsors who help us put on these events, and many of them have been with us for years. This is our 8th season of doing these live events. The presenting sponsor of the Express Sessions is Rocco Carrero Wealth Partners. It's a financial advisory firm. Their main office is on County Road 39. We have some reps from Rocco's office today, so I really want to thank you guys. Our session leaders are the Adam Miller Group, which is a law firm based in Bridgehampton, and Advantage Title, which is a title firm with their main East End office in Riverhead. President Chris Snuzzy and Johnny Hall are with us today. Thank you, guys. And I'd also like to thank our session partners, Saybrook Capital, Zappola Construction, Dayton Ritz and Osborne Insurance, Sand Pebble Project Management, and the law firm of Toomey, Latham, Shea, Kelly, Dubin, and Quartararo. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. We also have a longtime partnership with our media sponsor, WLIW-FM. Brian and Mike are with us today. They record these events, both in terms of video and audio. We use them and share them on our website afterwards so that all the folks who couldn't make it today are able to tune in and follow up. WLIW is Long Island's only NPR station. They've got a unique blend of news, music, entertainment, and their studios are right in Southampton Village. And you can listen to WLIW on FM 88.3, 88.7, 96.9, depending on where you are on Long Island. And of course, on their radio station, WLIW.org/radio. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, everyone at WLIW. So again, as for today's discussion, obviously we're here to talk about Westhampton Beach Village, but also just the greater Westhampton area, which relies on the village and its downtown for a lot of different things. Lots of environmental concerns, obviously beautiful oceanfront. The business district has gone through a lot of changes here in Westhampton over the last few years. So, we want to talk a little bit about how everybody's feeling on that, overdevelopment, protecting the waterfront, continuing to expand the sewer system, and again, whatever's on your minds as well. So I'd like to introduce the panel that is with us today. Joining us is Westhampton Beach Village Mayor Ralph Urban. Thank you, Ralph. Westhampton Beach Village Deputy Mayor Kimberly Mansour. Thank you, Kimberly. Westhampton Dunes Village Mayor Erwin Krasnow. Thank you, Erwin. Quogue Village Mayor Robert Truehold. Thank you, Robert. Jennifer Sperber, who is the owner of Mixology and a board member with the Westhampton Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Jennifer. Larry Jones, who is a preservation consultant and a trustee of the Westhampton Beach History Museum. Thank you, Larry. And Aram Tertunian, who is a coastal geologist and the president of First Coastal Consulting Corporation. I would also like to recognize, she's out here somewhere, Suffolk County Legislator Ann Welker. Ann, thank you for joining us. And like I said, we will have a microphone so we can hear from all of you as the time arises. Ellen, our director of events, will come around. You just have to raise your hand and flag her down. And please introduce yourself. Please be brief so we can hear from as many of you as possible. And I'm going to now introduce the moderator for today's event, the editor-in-chief of the Express News Group, Bill Sutton. Bill?
Thank you, Gavin. Down a little bit. Thank you all for coming. It's really great to see everybody. I was telling somebody earlier when I first interviewed for the job with the then just the Southampton Press back in 1999. I was living in Rochester, and we came down. A friend and I drove down for a job interview, and I stayed at the Dune Deck in Westhampton Beach because I didn't know any better, and fantastic place. And after the job interview, we came for dinner, and we came here with Star Boggs at the time. And they had the famous clam bake here. And after eating the famous clam bake here and staying at the Dune Deck, I pretty much said that no matter what they offered me, if they offered me anything, I was coming to Westhampton Beach. And I did. And I lived above the office for 25 years in Westhampton Beach. So Westhampton Beach has a special place in my heart. So I'm happy to be here today and happy to see all of you guys. Like Gavin said, we are. This is the final of our Local Matters series. But when I asked Mayor Urban to attend the event, he suggested that I invite the other two mayors as well, and that we talk a little bit about coastal issues. So we're going to do that. We're going to take a few minutes just to talk about coastal issues, and Aram Tertunian is here too to help with that. We'll take a few minutes. We'll talk about coastal issues, and then we'll get into some of the spicier stuff that you guys sent in during the survey that we sent out, and talk about some of the different issues. So I want to start. Before we do that, I'm just going to run down the line really quickly and very briefly, if you guys want to just talk about what you think is the most important issue facing the village and the greater Westhampton area. If you want to start real quick, and if it's a topic that we're going to talk in more detail about, we'll get to that. So, Mayor Urban, what do you?
I would say our biggest challenge is balancing environmental issues and growth issues, and trying to achieve a forward-looking balance that's beneficial to as many people as possible, and probably, in my mind, a little conservative in some situations.
Mixing in development with that as well,
yes.
Right?
Environmental is a high priority. So
I'm going to agree with that, and also, bring up part of what we'll talk about later with the sewer, and expanding that, and concerns about infrastructure and overdevelopment and things like that.
Great. Mr. Mayor, and it could be the greater area, or it can be specific to your village as well.
Well, specific to our village is really just trying to make sure that we keep sand on the beach. Our village was formed by a breach over 30 years ago, and it kind of wiped out the connection on Dune Road. And ever since then, we've been, making sure that we have sand on the beach and that people have access to their homes. So that's kind of the number one priority that people want to have in our village.
Great. The other, we're going to get confused because I'm just going to say Mr. Mayor, and whoever wants to answer, go ahead.
Right. Well, I echo Mayor Urban's concern about environmental and being forward-looking and balancing environmental concerns with climate change and beach erosion, which obviously we're going to talk about, but against growth. We don't have the same commercial growth and development issues that are present here in Westhampton. But we still have increased building, development, residential, and demands on the infrastructure. So trying to be intelligent and balancing the needs of our residents as we look forward against environmental concerns is probably my biggest preoccupation.
Great. Jennifer?
The chamber definitely wants to secure businesses in season as well as out of season. That's a challenge for us to keep stores open, make sure that people are coming to town, and safe, clean, all of that, as you can see from our festivals. So really just balancing the in-season and out-of-season business for all of our members and everybody on Main Street.
Great. Larry?
Yeah, my number one concern is historic buildings. Proud to prop them up. And my second concern is the sewer system and tweaking that to where it functions for the village. I think all the growth here in the village, it's going to be predicated on the quality of that system working and working well.
Absolutely. Aram?
Well, as anybody who knows me knows, I'm primarily focused on, beaches, barrier islands, and bays. And, I think that they are...
And oysters.
And oysters in the bay, absolutely. Those are the economic engines that drive the businesses, whether it's commercial development or residential development, and making sure that those are healthy beaches, strong barrier islands, and clean bays with oysters is my primary focus.
Great. Let's dive right in, if you excuse the pun. So Aram, just to give a little background to everybody, we can talk a little bit about. We're going to talk about Westhampton Dunes a little bit too, and what happened there. But the Fire Island and Montauk Point project used to be the Fire Island and Montauk Point study. After decades in a study phase, finally began to see some advancement over the last couple of years. Can you just give a brief overview of the project, what it hopes to accomplish, and how its scope has changed? Because it has changed a little bit in the last couple of years.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'd also just like to point out that the first Fire Island study was conducted in 1958, which was the year I was born. So I go hand in hand with the Fire Island project. So the Fire Island to Montauk Point project is actually unique in America. It combines beach restoration and the elevation of homes on the mainland in order to achieve better flood resistance and climate change resistance. It's a $1.7 billion project of the first cost. It contains the communities on Fire Island. It goes from Mauritius Inlet to Shinnecock Inlet and includes downtown Montauk. 4 of the 5 elements of that project have had their first construction, and the remaining element is the Quogue, East Quogue, and Hampton Bays element, which, if all things go well, we'll get that accomplished next winter. So it's been a long, long time coming. The impetus for the current funding was Sandy. In the Sandy supplemental bill that went through Congress, they appropriated the full 100% federal cost for the initial construction of the project, $1.7 billion. There's a follow-on 30-year component to that, which will have local participation, and that means that the federal government will pay 50% of all the follow-on beach restoration. The state will pay 35%, and the locals, town, villages will pay 15%. So it's pretty good leverage. We get a lot of sand for our money. There's also going to be, throughout Suffolk County, 4,500 homes on the mainland that are most flood prone are going to be elevated at no cost to the property owners.
Wow.
So that's the unique aspect of the project, is it combines the beach restoration to prevent the flooding, and it provides the elevation of the homes to make them more resistant to flooding when it occurs.
4,500.
4,500.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and the proportion is $1 billion to raise those 4,500 homes and $750 million to do the beach restoration.
Wow. Mayor Urban, so Westhampton Beach Village has been, I wrote blessed with a question mark, by a series of artificial groins that were installed. It was about a century ago now? Is it that long?
No, it was in the late 60s, early 70s, I believe, 1970s, so it's not quite a century. But
Close.
close.
To help prevent erosion, putting the village in a unique position, but perhaps having a negative effect on its neighbors. Talk a little bit about that unique position, what it's meant for the village, both in the positive and negative. And I think that kind of lets the village off. So FIMP doesn't apply that much to the village because of those groins. You don't have the same erosion. Am I right with that? Or
Well, in a portion of the village, yes.
Right.
But the groins do not extend for the full coastline of the village. There is a portion of the village that is mostly west of Lashley Beach that is subject to the same conditions that the rest of the beach is. To be honest, I don't mean to speak for the other mayors, but to be honest, when a few months ago we received a proposed contract from the town, because the town was having a contract imposed on them from the state, because the federal government was imposing a contract on them, I was shocked, to be honest, because the financial obligation that was being proposed would automatically put us in violation of our 2% cap which the state imposes as well. Through the last few months, working with the other mayors and working with the town, we've evolved to something that might be more manageable. But to me, from the outset, this was a reverse financial situation, because usually the federal government subsidizes states, and the states subsidize counties and towns and villages. We're being, what's the right word? Asked, strongly asked, encouraged to support the effort of the town, which supports the effort of the state, which is supporting the federal government's effort, which is to me backwards.
A little backwards, right?
A little backwards. But we're dealing with it as best we can. Let's put it that way.
You've been critical about the tax cap for a while now. We can come back to that
For a long
later
time,
on
yes.
if you want to talk about
Yes.
what restraints that puts on the village.
Certainly. That's yes.
Mayor Krasnow, the nor'easter in 1992, you referenced that, literally destroyed the area now making up your village. Can you just give a little more of a brief history of what happened, how the village was formed, and how the Army Corps of Engineers rebuilt the dune system, and then talk a little bit about what does FIMP offer Westhampton Dunes? And I'm just curious because I think there's been a pre-existing agreement with the Army Corps to kind of keep Westhampton Dunes in sand. How different is that from what the village is going to do with FIMP?
All right. Basically, like you said, there was a storm in 1992, which I was not unfortunate to be a part of. However, basically, what you said earlier, the groins that were built in the 60s or 70s, the project was never fully completed by the Army Corps of Engineers. And if they had taken the groins from Westhampton all the way through, basically, to Cupsog,
They had built the groins.
they'd finished building.
Right.
They ran out of money, and then they stopped building the groins. And basically, what that did was, it starved the village from getting sand from the lateral drift to the west. So what happened was, when these hurricanes came, the sand could not move. It was trapped in those groins, and it basically blew a hole through Dune Road by Pikes Beach, and I think it was called Little Pikes. And Aram has more information on this, but basically it opened the gap between our village and it wasn't even a village yet, and the mainland. And then because the repair was not done in a timely fashion, that gap became tremendously wide, and people couldn't get to their homes, and the homes were being looted, and people had no way to get to their possessions, their homes, or anything else. And because of the infighting with Suffolk County and everybody else and finger pointing, nothing was done for a while. Eventually, people that were homeowners in the village got together, and they fought Southampton, and they basically decided we're going to form our own village. And once they were able to form their own village, we were able to get resources that we were not able to get before from the state, from the federal government, to rebuild the access to the village and rebuild the roads and rebuild the beach. And part of that was an agreement that was started in 1997 called the RAF Agreement, where it's a consent decree from New York State that for the next 30 years, they would keep the sand on our beach and replenish our beach. And that agreement runs to at least December of 27, possibly longer. So we have been in the fortunate position that for the last 28 years, that anytime we've had a beach replenishment, it has been at the cost of the federal and state government. It has not cost the village any money. Now, with this new proposal that's on the table that Mayor Urban was talking about, they want us to contribute 15% towards the beach replenishment. And that 15% could be, over $20 million over the next 20 some odd years, and we only have 300 residents. So it becomes a pretty significant burden upon each resident. The other comment that I want to mention is when this RAF agreement was signed and the consent decree, we basically gave our beach up to the state. So our residents, their their property does not go to the mean high water line anymore. It just goes to a portion to the toe of the dune, and the rest of our beach is owned by New York State, and our beaches are all public, and we do have public access. No parking, but we have public access, so you can take if you're a walker or you want to take your bike.
It's a long
so
walk.
Our situation is a little bit different than because in Westhampton Beach and in Quogue, their residents actually own their beaches, and we do not own our beach. New York State does. So that's pretty much
That includes, Aram, that includes the trustee beach as well?
Yes.
That is unique, right?
Well, no, the trustee, the town easement is throughout the town, regardless of the village.
Okay.
That's
we do have
property law.
We do have Pikes Beach, which is the Southampton Beach, is in our village, and the county has another small parking lot called Atlantic in our village, and then we basically dump into Cupsog, which is a large county beach that's beautiful, and the pavilion is being rebuilt after 10 years from the fire ago, and it's going to be awesome this summer.
You got a lot of traffic going through your village to get to Cupsog.
That's the preponderance of all our traffic, is going to Cupsog. Yes.
Okay. Mayor Truel, your village has experienced significant erosion over the years, and I know that we've written about it over the years, and there's been different plans. Talk a little bit about what you guys have faced, and then what FIMP offers your village, maybe your perspective on the deal that we're talking about.
Well, our situation, thank you, is different than both the Dunes and Westhampton. One, we don't have any groins, which is in many ways good because that leads to other negative consequences. But at the same time, when storms come through, our beach gets, because of the lateral movement from east to west, we do have significant erosion. We also don't have the issue that the Dunes has, is that our beaches are privately owned by the homeowners to the mean water mark, subject to the town's overriding easement, which is a peculiarity of the town of Southampton. When I address this with our residents, I mean, the bottom line is for all of our communities, we are beachfront communities, and part of the value of being a resident of Quogue or Westhampton Dunes is having access to the beach. If we don't have a beach, you're not Westhampton Beach, you're Westhampton. And so preserving the beachfront is incredibly important. One of the particular complexities that we face in Quogue is because before any sand is placed on the beach through the FIMP project, the federal government insists on receiving easements from each individual property owner. There are approximately 50 properties in the village of Quogue that are in the project area where sand would be placed. So that involves getting 50 individual easements from each homeowner. That requires surveys, appraisals, offers, inevitably and potentially, I should say, not inevitably, but potentially litigation. So that's one of the issues that we've been facing in Quogue and also East Quogue, is how to get those easements in place in order to get sand on our beach.
What do those easements allow?
Well, it's a permanent easement to provide the federal government with access to the beach, not the private property.
Right.
Not they don't have access to cross the property from Dune Road to the beach. But to me, it shouldn't be as complicated as it is because the town already has an easement on the beach. So it's a procedural element that goes through because the 30-year commitment that we all must undertake to allow the federal government to continue every 4 or 5 years to put sand on the beach, or if there's a catastrophic event, another Sandy, to come back and put sand on the beach.
Is it a permanent
It's
easement?
a permanent easement. So there's an appraisal to determine what the effect on the value of the property is. I find it to be a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, but here we are agreeing to have someone come in and rebuild your beach and dune. To me, it's an improvement in the value of the property, not a detriment. But that's the exercise we're going through.
But those are pretty high value properties,
Absolutely.
obviously, and I wonder if that comes into play too.
Well, it does, and you get lawyers involved, and lawyers like to complicate things. But the
lawyers in the room.
I'm a recovering attorney, so but the no, I mean we're moving forward, and as Aram said, we're optimistic and fingers crossed that we'll be in a position to have everything in place so that this last stage of the beach nourishment aspect of the FIM project can move forward this coming fall.
Mayor Urban, it was your suggestion that the three of you attend the Express session. So I just was wondering if you would just, I think we've kind of touched on it, but talk about the relationship between the three villages and your personal relationship with the three mayors and what that helps you to accomplish.
Well, basically, I recognize that we are co-dependent in so many respects because we depend on each other. I guess I think the most important and daily respect that we depend on each other is sharing services like police and fire. And we depend on, if we have a situation and need help, we call on Quag and the Dunes. We have an occasion for assistance, and they call on us. And without that, we also depend on Suffolk County Police and state police and sometimes New York City Police. All that interdependence makes it possible for us to operate much more efficiently because there's no way we could handle everything that comes up in each village independently. Just absolutely no way. So that interdependence is extremely valuable. And we communicate well with each other in all those instances. Like when I mentioned I was shocked about the initial contract with FIMP, right away I reached out to Maria Moore, the supervisor, and Bob and Erwin, and we started talking through the situation. And I can say I think we're pretty close to coming to a solution. So that interdependence is not. Westhampton Beach, yes, has the larger bustling business community, but again, it's interdependent on our surrounding communities, no question.
Great. Mayor, you talked a little earlier about that just because you mentioned the business community. I mean, this is where you guys come, for commercial enterprises to come, get something to eat, that type of thing. That you do kind of see a symbiosis, right, between your village and Westhampton Beach, your residents during the summer. You see yourselves as part of the greater area, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we all shop and spend money and, stroll the downtown here. And I mean, we don't have any commercial facilities in our village. So everything is really, the preponderance is done in Westhampton Beach and Quag and then, Southampton. And that's, been very beneficial. But I think Ralph, really said it that, I'm the newbie on the block. And, when I came here from day one, both, Mayor Urban and Mayor Truehold were extremely gracious with their time and counsel. And I have these intermunicipal agreements with the village of Westhampton Beach where they provide certain services for us. We have shared services. We don't have redundancy. We don't have a DPW. And it's been great. Plus, we also share ideas and try to, help each other. From whether it's the FIMP agreement or other things that are happening in Albany, and we work really well together. We really are, even though we are separate villages, we are really one community from my perspective, and much appreciated of what we all do together and we all do for the residents in our respective communities in the greater Westhampton area itself.
You see things the same way, obviously.
Absolutely. And before Mayor Urban took on the reins of Westhampton Beach, Maria, as you all know, spent many years and really kick-started the redevelopment, which I assume we'll be speaking to. But I think all the three of us benefit from Maria's long-standing commitment to Westhampton, and so having her as supervisor has been a great help for us. And now that Westhampton has been thriving, it's been a great contribution to all of us in Quogue. And so, as Erwin just said, we really are a community that is interdependent, both in terms of the administration of this and cooperating and coordinating on shared services, but also in terms of just being together and spending time together. So I concur with what both Ralph and Erwin said.
Great. So
I do have to interject. I would much rather Maria have stayed as mayor. of Westhampton Beach,
too late.
I can't win them all. So.
Aaron, and I think you touched on this a little bit, but Aaron sent me some cheat questions. I'm going to ask one of them. Why is preserving, restoring, and enhancing these resources critical to our economic sustainability? And talk a little bit about FIMP 30, what the intermunicipal agreements with the town, 3 villages, and state for the next 30 years. We touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So, we think of beaches as, health and beauty, but for a moment, think of them as economic engines. Both mayors, all 3 mayors have talked about coming to downtown Westhampton Beach for strolling, shopping, ice cream, eating, whatever it is, getting together, going to the movies. Those houses that are on the beach generate incredible amounts of income for our area every year. I did a study several years ago just looking at Quogue, and it's called a regional input-output model, which is an accepted econometrics model. And the number about 4 years ago was $60 million a year to the local economy. So these beaches are tremendous economic drivers. Think about real estate rentals. Think about real estate sales. All of these contribute to the local economy and enable us to live in this fabulous area and, do the wonderful things that we do. So it's been actually a focus later in my career. And I am a coastal geologist, and that is my first love. But over the years, I've become more involved in looking at the economics because I think it becomes more real to people, and then they begin to truly understand the value of the beaches and the bays as well. If the water is clean in the bay, people are happy. They come here, they enjoy it. If it's not, bad things happen. So being stewards of those resources is incredibly important and fundamental to us, to our sustainability.
Great. Let's shift gears a little bit. If we have time, we can get back to some of the other coastal stuff. But and everybody feel free to jump in. But I'm going to direct this first to Kim. The number one answer that we saw in the survey that we sent out, and I'm going to say 90% of the answers, were asking about one specific intersection in Westhampton Beach. That's Riverhead Road and Montauk Highway. The abandoned gas station there and the old Dora's restaurant, which is literally the gateway to the village. How frustrating has it been, recognizing both as private property,
Right.
To see so little movement in the development of those properties? I know that there's been efforts on the village board's part to try to encourage some development there. Has there been any movement at this point?
Well, I will say there has been a lot of effort on the village's part to encourage the property owners to do something. Anything. But we also want to be aware that, properties, like, let's just say, if we try to do something to take down the structures, because that's a question I often get is, can you just have them take it down so we're not looking at anything? Well, I mean, you could, but at the same time, the property will lose its density and flow and other things associated with it that is valuable to the property owner. So it becomes difficult unless the property owner moves forward with some kind of health department application or some kind of preservation to keep that value. It's hard to make them do something. We are trying. It's a work in progress. And we are progressing on it, I'll say. But those two locations have been a big discussion, and we're working to change it.
For a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, we've come up with different ideas on, what it could be, what it should be.
What would you like to see personally? What would you like to see there
Well,
on either property or both?
I'd like to see a restaurant probably where Dora's is, because it was one. And I would like to see that. Also, somebody would need to take the reins on that and make it sustainable. And then where the gas station is, it's not that large of a property. Even a green space would be better than what it currently looks like.
Could there be any town involvement, any CPF involvement?
Sure.
I mean, it's developed.
We
but-
have discussed, just different ideas. It's a little challenging because as a gas station, there is remediation involved and other things involved, depending on if you'd like to build a structure or keep it green. So that's kind of where that comes in, is how much work that's going to be and what it's worth to certain funds to want to buy it, and or an investor to want to invest in it.
I think if you asked anybody in the audience, they'd say that was a priceless solution. That
Yeah.
whatever you did to get rid of those two blighted properties
Yes.
would be welcome.
We are trying, though.
I have to say that with the gas station property, we did encourage the Gables
Right.
to try to assume that property as part of theirs, and they did make an offer and it was refused. I have to say for the Doras, it's been ongoing for in excess of 15 years, that situation, I believe. We seem to make progress with the owner, and then there's a setback, and I guess the most recent setback was a large one, and that's a death in the family, so that, and then their legal, as
Ties
Bob
up the
once
ownership.
said, the lawyers like to get involved, so we are constantly, it's constantly in the back of our mind, we're constantly working on it and trying to make progress on it, as Kim said.
And you'd be open to a lot of different solutions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to jump into this one because in my day job, I'm a real estate developer. I'm actually the person who brought you the brand new 7-Eleven because I was very upset that Valero was charging $6.50 a gallon for gas, and I thought there was an injustice there, and I could do better. And Mayor Moore at the time, and Deputy Mayor Ralph Urban, really embraced me to help me with this project, and it's really, made this, besides being my home in the dunes, basically my home in Westhampton Beach, where I've been, willing to reinvest money here. And ironically, about 15 years ago, I tried to work on the gas station because it's been closed forever and couldn't really make progress with the owners, and they were being unrealistic then. And I haven't approached them recently, but I have been trying to work on the Dora situation for the last 5 or so years. And again, there was a death and they don't know what they want to do. Then they don't want to sell. Then they want to lease it. And then they came up with the design for a restaurant, and having had the unfortunate lifespan of a restaurateur for a while, it's a really hard business to make money in. And the design that they came up with really, I didn't even think was sustainable. But Kim is right that obviously if you take down the building, there's what we call, non-conforming grandfathered uses, and they would lose that. And then they would have to start all over with the new law. So there is a reason probably why they are not taking down the building. But, if I had my druthers, I really feel that it's important to really, personally, I think all three of those corners need to be redeveloped. And I'm more than happy to work with, anybody to try to accomplish that, because I think there's just a lot of better uses that could be there, in my opinion.
What is that property zoned?
I'm sorry?
What is that property zoned?
I think it's in the B1.
One.
Yes.
Which would allow for what? I mean, if the building was knocked down, what would new owners be able to build there if there was no pre-existing non-conforming?
Probably similar to what you see on Montauk Highway. So it could be, a restaurant. You had Boone Burger, you had the hardware store. So something similar to that row of things,
I think I misspoke, B2, not
yeah.
B1, B2.
but similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're that, that's the other, I'll wait till I talk about the sewer for that part, but there are certain, zoning and codes and things in place to keep streets a certain way. So
Right.
it would have to be in one of those.
The other complicating factor for that intersection is it's Suffolk County roads.
Right.
Right.
And so any curb cuts or accommodations for access to properties has to be approved by Suffolk County. And incidentally, that intersection has been on tap to be redone and re-engineered for over 12 years now. And I've been noticed that Suffolk County is moving forward with that. Probably in 2028, we'll have that intersection
So they say.
taken care of to a degree. I asked them to put in a traffic circle because I think the traffic circles have worked well. And they said, well, we engineered it for this. Do you really want a traffic circle? And I said, well, yes. And they said, well, that'll take another 15 years.
They
I
have to
said,
re-
so they will be widening the road and putting in turning lanes and things like that. But it will still be a street lit, a light controlled intersection.
Traffic circles are great. I mean, I think they've done really well in your village, but I know that the county historically has rejected them.
Actually, they were very open to it, but it was the
Time
time
frame.
issue because they are putting, Suffolk County is putting traffic circles up in Greenport and other locations. And I think the traffic circles in Riverhead, even though when I first encountered them, I thought it was an engineering nightmare. Once you become accustomed to them, they handle an enormous amount
Well,
of traffic.
the one at the end of 104 now, I mean, that saved a lot of lives.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
there used to be three or four fatal
Yes.
accidents there all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
No offense to anybody at the table, but when I used to cover Southampton town government, Skip Heaney was supervisor, and one of his favorite sayings was, "Government works at two speeds, slow and glacial." And so maybe that applies a little bit to the state. Jennifer, if we can move to the business district a little bit. What's the economic climate look like in the village right now? What's been the impact of Main Street revitalization? And this is going to be a long question, but and I know you brought this up, and I asked the question because we wrote a story this week in Southampton Village. They formed a new committee to try to help build business in the off season and the shoulder seasons, and they cited Westhampton Beach and the success Westhampton Beach has had in the different events that you guys have during that off season to bring business in. So how successful has that been? What's the economic climate? How you guys doing since the revitalization?
Pretty darn good. I would credit definitely the Spring Fling. I don't know if anyone has attended the Spring Fling or the Fall Festival. They are both in shoulder seasons. So the Spring Fling is generally in either the end of April or beginning of May. This year will be beginning of May like it was last year. And Columbus Day weekend, we have the Fall Festival. We also have the art show. We have a lot of things that are going on to bring traffic to town. And honestly, I mean, I only started at my current position at Mixology in 2020. There's been such
Good year to start something new.
great. There's been a really great amount of local people, obviously an increase in local people, and even just the relationships with the people who live here year round. They come to town to eat, they pop into the stores. Talking about, my life there's like a duality because I run a store on Main Street and I'm also on the board for the chamber. So I get to see it from everybody's position, and then I get to see it real life, the way it looks to me as I'm standing in the store. So I mean, the amount of work that goes into these festivals and how it's brought people, if you guys have been there, just nod. But it is wild, the amount of people that come to town on those days. I mean,
Does that translate into more business and being a little more sustainable? Because I know that
Absolutely.
when we've talked to other villages, and I'm thinking of Sag Harbor, where Sag Harbor has a lot of foot traffic in the summer, but the businesses there are saying the last couple of years that hasn't translated well into increased business. When you get them into the village, is that working? Is that increasing business?
Absolutely. I mean, not even just on that day, but then just maybe for the weekend. And as a business person in town as well, I think, like right now, I'm seeing a lot of people who are coming and renting, at a lower price maybe. Now you can come and stay for the weekend. Well, that also brings traffic to town and to the members of the chamber. It is, I don't know it pre-2020, unfortunately, so it's only what's been told to me. But this is a world of difference. And there's always going to be people who don't agree with the parking and don't agree with anything. But the business here is incredible. And, even maybe just also talking about retail stores for a moment, or restaurants, it's right there. It's like at your fingertips. You can just go, a quick drive and you can eat and shop, and you don't necessarily have to go to Riverhead or have to go,
Parking might be an issue, but
Okay. We have a lot of parking.
we'll get there.
Well, and Bill,
I want to be friends with everyone.
let's not forget the most fun shoulder season activity of all in the unofficial kickoff to summer, the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
Yeah,
There it is.
huge event, and people. I think it may not be comparable to Montauk in size necessarily, but certainly in popularity, and it just brings a bunch of people to the village, right?
There's a lot of enthusiasm.
There is.
That's the right word.
Well, one thing that's clearly changed in the whole area, at least in around Westhampton, has been the number of year-round residents or people who come out year-round. When I first started coming to Quogue 30 years ago, I was a summer resident and rarely came. I might come for Thanksgiving, might come for Christmas. I mean, now for many years I've been a year-round resident, but especially the pandemic contributed to that, of course. But even before, Quogue now has well over 1,000 year-round residents, whereas it used to be a few hundred.
Right.
And I think that's generally true, which has contributed to, as Jennifer was saying, is that there's more traffic throughout the year, and
They got to eat.
They got to eat, they got to shop, and so I think that's definitely a trend. I don't know that it will continue to increase, but it certainly has helped the local economy.
Yeah.
Jennifer, is it a younger crowd in the village? I know. I mean, for years it was a little bit of a party town. Then it kind of calmed down, and it became more of a family town. But I know that we did a podcast with the folks at the PAC recently, and they were saying that they're seeing maybe the kids of that family that are now kind of coming back and wanting to, I don't want to say party town again, but to be a younger consumer in the village, to going to the restaurants, maybe a little bit of nightlife, that type of thing. Are you seeing that? Is it a younger crowd now?
I think the life of the younger crowd has also changed drastically. Whereas I'm not going to give my age because I'm very young, but 20 years ago, going to clubs and nightlife was so predominant. And now I see 20-something-year-olds are worried about where they're going to dinner. And I would be like, no, we're saving our money for drinking. We're not worried about what we're eating. So I think also just the culture has really changed. So yes, I still think it's a family town. And so now these younger kids they're coming to eat. And of course there's going to be nightlife, but the demand is not the same. They want to eat and shop and go to the beach, and that's just enough for them, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I meant to imply that in a negative way, but just younger, just a younger crowd doing younger things, whatever young people do.
Whatever they do
I
these
don't.
days,
I
those
don't.
kids.
I have no idea.
You know what? I live on Main Street. I live in the oldest house in town at Main Street and Aspetuck, across from Seafield. And I keep fooling with this whole house. I'm going to have to check into Seafield. But we do our own independent survey of traffic and cars and people walking, riding bikes and stuff that go by on Main Street. And it's absolutely we love it because we've made friends with all these people we never knew before. And there's been a big housing development over really heading towards Quogue, but lots of new houses and lots of very young children, young families, and their dogs and all the bikes and everything. And it's staggering. I love to see a tape put down to see how many cars go by these days, because it's just huge. And it seems to be from our neighborhood, could be coming over from Quag, of course, as well. But we're excited to see that. And one thing I should say, I'm on the planning board, and my hair was probably brown when we started arguing with all these folks about those properties.
Yeah.
And first one we did was Valero, redevelop that gas station, and it looked better than it used to, but it's still a ratty looking location. And then the second thing that came along was Dora's. Dora's has a problem because of its parking.
Right. That was the second place I ate, by the way.
Yeah.
This was first, Dora's was second.
And it requires additional parking. We worked out an arrangement to get a small piece of property directly behind it to solve the parking problem. And then as the mayor talked about, we had all the plans basically approved, and then one of the owners passed away and everything stalled. The gas station, they never did anything on. I talked to the developer when they very first came to our board about the vacant gas station on the opposite corner, and I said, you ought to go talk to them. And I wasn't telling them anything they didn't know. This is a corner of their sort of would be ideal addition to their property, and to add insult to injury, we have historic trees that sit back in that, what was a bunch of weeds behind the gas station, and there's these early trees that were made into fences like during the Revolutionary War. There's some of these trees back there that, if you're driving along directly behind the gas station, there's these trees that grow with limbs growing horizontally.
Really?
They're dumb looking, and matter of fact, George Washington even hated them. He thought they were so stupid. But at any rate, it made...
That would make a good story, though.
Well, very nice. Apparently he came here at one time, but he didn't stay in my house. So and then let me say one other thing about that. All three of those, the Doras. I hope you all appreciate the work that someone went to paint Christmas wreaths on the front.
I noticed that.
Huge improvement.
Yeah, it didn't do anything for our Jewish residents with a menorah or anything painted on there, but we hope something's going to happen.
It was something, huh? Yeah, we tried to find out who it was. We weren't really.
But
We
one
never
last thing I
really.
would like to suggest to Irwin is, why don't you put a mini 7-Eleven down there? A little mini one. Okay, that's all I got. Thanks.
Well, while I got you warmed up, Larry, so I did want to ask you about a project that I think is close to a lot of people's heart, and you were instrumental in the restoration of the Dick's Windmill, which now sits on the Great Lawn. And I know it's open for tours, and you guys are going to start some classes, I think, this spring.
Yep.
Can you just give a brief history, again, no pun intended, of that project? And more importantly, just tell everybody why it matters that that windmill was moving. Now it sits in the.
Well, we've been in arguments, consultation with the mayor, because he wants to put a zip line in attached to that windmill going all the way across the Great Lawn. And we have to put a stop.
We'll post video of that.
There's a funny thing about historic buildings, especially endangered ones, is that they're often hiding in plain sight. This windmill didn't look like a windmill, hadn't had its blades in about 30, 40 years. It was sitting down on the corner of a Seafield and Sunswick. And the property sold, the house is going to be demolished, and I went up and talked to the owners and asked them, I said, would you think you might be interested in restoring that windmill and doing something with our property? And as I recall, they said, well, what windmill are you talking about? And I said, well, that thing's sticking up in the backyard.
The one on your house.
And they go, well, no. And the answer is no. And so I said, well, you want to think about it? And I said, okay. So they thought about it for about a week, and the answer was no. And so I talked to Mayor Moore and Mayor Urban, and all about the same time it all came together, and they wanted it out of there. And by good fortune, the windmill was sitting 5 feet away from there where they're proposing to put a foundation in for their garage that's tied to their house. And so we had a short period of time to move it. And that windmill's taken.
That was contingent, right? I mean, that you moved it before they started construction, or they were
No, they
going
weren't
to tear
going
it
to
down.
stop. Yeah, they were going to knock it
Yeah.
down if it was in their way.
Yeah.
It just happened by luck. It wasn't. They did take a week or two off extra to give us a little extra time, but the windmill's is not a heavy item, but it has to be handled very delicately. The house movers thought it would be nothing more fun than to move a 42-foot tall windmill straight down the street standing up. They hadn't done that before. Thought this was the perfect place to try it. And I could see it, crushing 2 or 3 houses when it fell off the trailer. But this has taken the work of at least 80 people, probably, from all different kinds of. There wasn't Vinny back here. Matt that has worked with CPF worked on this, and we couldn't have done that without CPF funding. And nor could we have done it initially because you can't use CPF money to move his antique buildings or things like that. So we had to raise that money through GoFundMe, and we got a very nice grant from the chamber, $10,000. Got $10,000 from the historical. We used to say hysterical society, but we show more respect these days. And besides, I'm on the board there. But so. We very much appreciate that funding and all the work that's going into moving this. Mayor Moore, she could put pressure on people like nothing I've ever seen. Or Ralph knows he had to work closest with it.
She can influence people like.
Yeah, influence, that's a word.
She arranged for architects, engineers to donate their services to draft all of the documents needed, and was highly instrumental. I've never been in such a collaborative effort that worked so well with the town, the village, the Historical Society, the chamber, all these professionals that volunteered their work and their time and their efforts. It was a terrific experience.
And they all got along. I mean, especially with, it's like putting a bunch of cats in a bag or something. When you normally getting architects to work with each other because they always know that they really hate the other person to death. And
Not the person, just the design.
I hate the whole thing. And but they're a wonderful collaboration and a set of drawings that should be frameable. They're very, very complicated and beautiful. One of the things about these windmills is they seem to, maybe ships carpenters or likely did work on this mill, and everything's curved. They love curved shapes. Ships have no straight lines on them at all, and these guys that build boats build these readily. It withstood the 38 hurricane. We have pictures of it with all these houses in the village washed up against the side of the windmill, and it's still sitting there. Hadn't lost any shingles, no glass broken, shutters are still there, and the blades are still on it. So, at any rate, we're happy to get that window.
So why is it important, Larry? I mean, why is it important to have these historic monuments in the village?
Yeah, I would say it's vitally important, and it's vitally important because these are landmarks, and I mean that's kind of an overused term, but they're focal point landmarks, and that was not a focal point where it's set over here because it wasn't seen. And then there were houses, the sides of breezeways were attached to it over the years, and it never had worked for 50 years. And people come down there all the time when I'm down there working on it or have the doors open, and they go, well, what is this? And I said, well, it's a mill. And they go, well, drying grain? Nope. And they saw lumber? Nope. What the hell do you do with it? And I said, well, it pumped water. And that was its job. And it's the only windmill out here out of now 12 that have been restored that pumped water. I was just yesterday at National Golf Links, and that windmill there is the roof, the whole roof structure that was bigger than this room was 45,000 pounds, was hoisted up with a crane, and that was pretty dramatic. So and then now at Stony Brook, that windmill they're put out an RFP to try and get the contractors to work on it. So it's very exciting. It's fun to take people inside and show them the structure. We have
You're gonna do some classes this summer.
and we're put together. Basically, it's going to be a museum about windmills. This crazy thing about Westhampton Beach is it used to be called Windmill Town because it has damn many windmills, and there was over 100 of them. And that everybody that wanted to pump water, there's no electricity. You don't want to get out there and crank it by hand, so a pump. So a windmill was a perfect answer for the question of how to get water out of the ground.
Bill, when Larry said, when you asked him, why do people like these monuments? And for me personally, they provide punctuation marks in our history. They provide touchstones where we can say, woo, place all this in context. Like he said, there was no electricity.
Right.
Right. We have Wi-Fi.
Well, it was a bit of a rub. We have Olympic.
Well, Verizon doesn't have it, but we do.
Not Verizon.
I got a company that makes Olympic sails for sailboats, racing sailboats called Doyle Sails. I called them up down City Island, and I said, I got a neat project for you. I said, how about making sails for our windmill? And they go, what?
What's a windmill?
And I said, it's okay with me if it's synthetic as long as it's not like Mylar where you see through the modern fabric. They said, oh no, we can get Egyptian and blah, blah, blah. And so they made 2 sets of sails for us. Now, the way these windmills worked, it either took small children or ideally orphans to climb up the blades of the sail to tie the darn canvas on, and then you come back down again. But when you were done with the windmill at the end of the day, you either reef the sails and roll them up, or you send the little boogers back up there to take it down again. And so we're not ready to run the windmill yet, although it pumps water. When we turn the windmill around, it only has to go about half turn. It starts gushing water out of it. We have a well that goes down 60 feet. Mayor Moore, that was her main requirement, was that it had to pump water, it had to work so people could see it. And
That's really neat.
the fact that there was no.
I just want to interrupt Larry for a minute and emphasize we'll not be using orphan children. we have more sophisticated needs.
He keeps coming up with all these rules. The last rule that came up with was the public cannot drink the water from this well. And I said, well, they told me it was going to be good water, 60 feet deep. So, but anyway, it is a focal point now, and it wasn't before. And
Mayor, I know you are passionate about the project. What do you see it bringing to the village?
I think it's a landmark that the village has never had, like a focal point. A lot of villages have a focal point where tourists or visitors or even residents come and they want to take pictures, they want to see it, they want to identify with it. And I think the windmill has provided that.
It's a great spot for it, right?
The aspect of the windmill being a water pump instead of a grist mill is one of the reasons that the architects called it an elegant shape rather than the humongous bulbous shape of most of the grist mills. This has a much more sophisticated, I think, elegant, historic shape. The fact that it's John Adams Dix is also the same Dix that Fort Dix in New Jersey is named after. There's a lot of history. If you look behind what's there's an awful lot of history, and it's throughout Westhampton Beach.
And it's a good thing we have Larry and his crew over at the Historic Museum to kind of help educate people that way.
It's a good project. Those paint colors, by the way, are original. A lot of the windmills you see weren't painted. This is a later windmill, at least in this current iteration, dates about 1874. And the shingles were red on the roof and a beige on the walls, and there was a green that was used on the windows. So those colors Although it wasn't common to paint windmills, this one was painted.
It looks great. It looks
And,
fantastic.
It's very nice interior. If my wife throws me out, I could live in there. Really.
That's where we'll look for you, Larry. We're gonna switch gears again a little bit. We're gonna talk a little bit about the sewer. Kim, I know you wanted to talk about it, but let me start with you. We wrote about it this week. You guys passed a resolution at the last board meeting. 6 property owners were recently served for not hooking into the first phase of the sewer district. What do you think explains the holdouts? And then just give a brief history of the sewer plan in general.
Well, basically, in my first statement, I said environment is primary. So the primary emphasis of the whole sewer project, in my mind, and I think Maria's at the time, was environmental. And when we were going through the engineering and developing the map and plan for the sewer project, there was an emphasis that, and apparently it happened in one portion of the state at one point, they built a sewer project, no one connected. It was too expensive. So to build a sewer and have no one connect is just not an option. You want people to connect. So from the outset, we had the map and plan, we passed a code, we passed a law that once it's complete, you have to connect. And there were certain guidelines and timeframes and all this kind of stuff. I think the sewer project has been well publicized. The library was the very first one to connect. We had a terrific
First flush.
first flush press event. There's no reason to not know that there's a sewer in the area, and you were notified. A lot of the properties had to give easements, construction easements and things like that. So it was a very obvious project, and we had an awful lot of people connect, I would say, almost immediately. The process it involves paperwork, and we're dealing with Suffolk County once again, and the Village of Westhampton Beach, but we're cooperating, and we will help anyone. CPF has also been very generous in their water quality grants in helping people connect, to finance the connection, because it can be pricey to abandon an existing system and connect to the new sewer system. And I
But
think
there's help available.
I'm sorry?
There's help available.
There's help available, absolutely. And I anticipated, in my mind, it made sense that all of the restaurants would connect immediately. Because I know of some restaurants that in season, at the height of business, they have to have their cesspools pumped 2-3 times a week. And that's expensive. That's more expensive than hooking up to the sewer. So, and I thought most likely the people that would connect at the very end and hold out would be the smaller dry stores that maybe had a bathroom in the back and not a lot of water use, and therefore not a lot of sewer activity, if you want to call it that. They would be the last. But I was wrong. So some others chose not to connect or did not connect for their various reasons, which in some cases baffles me. That's all I can say. So
Kim, what do you think accounts for some of the non-compliance? And then talk a little bit about next stage, phase 2, phase 3.
So I think the non-compliance is, it's hard because people, like Mayor Urban has said, were aware that this project was happening. It was talked about for years. It, was going on for years. Everybody saw Main Street ripped up. I think the hard part is that it varies in cost. Like Mayor said, if you have a store with 1 half bath, right, versus a restaurant or something with an apartment, that cost can vary greatly. And you need to seek out the help of CPF and put in the application and do some more work to get that money if that's the route that you're going. So I think we're standing our ground with this because we'd like to move forward to phase 2 and 3. And we really need, I believe, 18 months of actual flow to know where we are, to see how much we have left to use and what we need to do for phase 2 and 3. So we've already started the conversation and, kind of begun the planning process, but we can't move forward. We need to calculate those numbers to put it into our plan to then go to the county and say, this is what we need. And we can't do that until everybody hooks up, or at least I would say most of the larger, buildings.
To give you some idea what the projection is.
Yeah, and then there's, it also comes into play that some people that have hooked up, maybe even almost a year ago, would like a change of use, or they would like to do something else. And we, really can't move forward with a lot of things until we know where we are. And it's just a matter of what was planned in phase 1 and what was projected flow, and then what the actual flow is, and then we can move forward for 2 and 3.
I mean, that was part of the idea. While there was an environmental was the main part, part of it was, what it would mean for commercial and for business opportunities to be able to have more wet uses in the village and more housing on Main Street in the business district, that type of thing. Jennifer, what's the sewer district meant for local businesses in the district? Will there be more of those wet uses, restaurants planned? Are businesses excited about it, or is it a struggle? Has it been a struggle for some businesses to connect?
I don't think so. I think the excitement of there's always side talk, but I think it's been fine. I think everybody's excited about people want more restaurants. So you're only going to get more of what you ask for if, like Kim was saying, you can move forward. You can't do that without, going through the phases of all these plans. And so I frequently heard people ask for, we need another restaurant. We need another restaurant. So, I mean, I think honestly, too, sitting here a little inexperienced, honestly, this is like a wonderful, inspiring panel of people. I'm learning so much, too, about what you guys are talking about. It's good for me to be able to go back, too, and in my networking life, talk to people about these things and how important they are, instead of just, sometimes in the position that I'm in both parts of my life, all you hear about is complaints. Everybody wants to say what's wrong, but no one wants to, give you big high fives sometimes. So this is really valuable information, not just, for the residents and for the people sitting here today, but also for myself. So I know that didn't answer the question, but shout out to everyone.
Well, it did. And look, and if it provides more housing too in the business district, then those are people that are on Main Street 24/7. It becomes a more walkable community. It becomes, those are people that are, going to the restaurants and shopping as well too. Any questions from the audience? One in the back, Ellen. Hang on, let her come around with the microphone just so we can get it on tape for.
Where am I going? Here. Okay.
I'd like to know if the newspaper could publish the names of the property owners who have not hooked up to the sewer system, which I understand is a couple of restaurants, and perhaps we could start some kind of boycott. Perhaps the village could fine them X amount of dollars per day, per week, whatever it takes to get these guys to hook up.
It's an idea. We had a list of property owners. Some of them are LLCs, so I don't know if we published that, whether that would give you an idea of who it is.
You could say what the business is.
Yeah.
No?
It's an idea. I think we chose not to at this point until we're trying to we'd like to talk to them first and see what their reasoning is for not hooking up.
I can say
But it's a good
that-
idea.
I can say that previous to passing the resolution, initially we had 11 properties, and within a week of them finding out that this was going to happen, the number went down dramatically and quickly of people that started taking action. And just for your information, as part of the code, the fine is $100 a day once it's imposed. So there is a fine in place as part of the code. But we have seen a notable increase in people in activity moving forward with connecting since the resolution, I should say. So some of it is working.
And I just want to add one more thing. We've also, we have a wonderful building inspector, and we've also tried to increase communication between those, 6 people and our building department. So, is an application in, even if you're not hooked up, is there progress? We really want to see progress, and we want to know what the holdup is, and how can we help? We can't do an application for you, but we could help you with whatever your issues are to move forward. So we are also trying that approach as well.
So those 6 property owners, they've been served notice.
Oh, yes, they were served notice, yes.
Are there hearings scheduled or?
Well, we're going to pursue with the legal aspect if we don't see notable progress in their application process. So
Ultimately, you would just like to compel them to hook.
ultimately, we would like to still work with them and get them to hook up. I mean, we're still willing and able to help them achieve their hookup. So that's the approach.
I don't think I need the mic.
No, we need
Actually,
for
okay,
the
sure.
for the recording.
Hi, I'm Jim Fogarty, and I love the village, okay? I would flip it on its head a little bit with Doris. Couldn't we find the person that put the wreath on it and each season put something else on the window? Or have it a student art project that, whoa, you won an award, you can go paint something on the window at Dora's. So,
That's a great idea.
just a recommendation.
They did something similar in Southampton Village where they encouraged arts in storefront windows that
Yes.
were abandoned.
Yeah.
And that is very nice. I will say that I will contact the school about that and the owner, because I'm sure the students would love a project. No, it's an
a great
important
idea.
thing. It is a concern that probably the number one question, along with the beach passes, that I get from residents.
It was a step in the right direction. to have
Yes.
The ornaments placed on the building, so.
Good afternoon. I'm Dawn Murphy with Corcoran Real Estate, and I love the village too, and all of the surrounding feeder, if I can call them towns. Been here for a long time as a renter, homeowner, tenant, landlord, etc. I am most concerned about parking in our village. And I'd love to know if you all have talked about it, if there are plans. I certainly see lots that would be really prime parking areas that would tie in nicely. And who would be, can the village purchase land? Is it town of Southampton? Or is it CPF? Like, how do we get some parking going on that's proximate?
For CPF, I can answer the question right away. As soon as it's a CPF property, the property is purchased. In almost all cases, if there's a building on it, CPF is open space. If there's a building on the CPF property, it has to be removed
Prior to the purchase.
prior to the purchase. If we purchase property with CPF funds, it cannot be made a parking lot. For example, the Great Lawn, we had people parking on it whenever they wanted to, and it was becoming evident that people would take advantage of that more and more. That's why you see the roped off area and the chained area, because that's CPF property as well. And parking is not allowed on CPF property with the exception of special events. And at the Great Lawn, we're only allowed, with an agreement with the church and Southampton Town, to have 6 special events on the Great Lawn a year. So that's the only time parking is allowed on CPF property. To answer your question about can the village buy property for parking, the answer is yes, but we have to find, we've reached out to certain property owners. We can pay usually 10% above the assessed value. And property, it's not very attractive to most property owners.
In order to provide a parking lot, it would have to be in proximity to Main Street, and I would imagine that
That would be
property is a
ideal.
little more valuable.
Yes. And also, with respect to parking, we have to try and plan it as best we can. And that's why we are discussing it. We are having, as a matter of fact, it's on the agenda for our next meeting. We have discussed paid parking in certain parking lots to try and raise funds so that we can to improve parking in various areas. It's a very challenging situation because the village has become much more active. If we were a Disneyland and had pre-planned everything and had underground for deliveries and had adequate parking, that would have been wonderful, but we're the opposite. We have a very valuable performing arts theater and a very valuable theater that's been in existence in our village for quite some time, and they have no parking, none. And they are large venues. And that's because they pre-existed code and building codes, which only started in the late 50s and 60s. So it's a reactive situation rather than proactive situation for us, and we're trying to do it.
We also have, we've been discussing paid parking. We've also discussed adding parking to Main Street. We've discussed time limits. Creating areas with a 4-hour time limit to encourage more turnover so that people can get a spot. And also with the paid parking, the idea is to create a parking fund that we can then, if the opportunity arises, look for a property and purchase the property. And, whether it has a building or parking or something on it, it would have to fit kind of the master plan of where the parking is and connect in that way. But the point of the paid parking would be to create the parking fund and then use that money to look for a property for more parking. I also will mention, like today, I'm not sure if anyone had an issue parking, probably not, but it's obviously a seasonal community. So the parking issues tend to be around the same times, around the same days, around the same dates, and you just wouldn't have enough parking no matter what. But we want to encourage the turnover, the farmers market turnover, the restaurant turnover, the pack turnover, so people have the opportunity. So we're talking about creating a paid parking area, and then of course making sure some lots are going to be free and untimed.
What intrigues me is the fact that the village has a parking problem. It's 3 nights a week for 3 or 4 hours, and then most of the other time, and you guys might agree or disagree, it seems that there isn't a parking problem. So you guys are spending a lot of effort and I imagine funds at some point to address a problem that's kind of almost sporadic, but certainly very frustrating for people who are coming into the village.
We did have a professional parking study done, and the overall assessment came out that we have fully adequate parking 95% of the time. So,
but it's where people are parking too, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Mayor. Your quote to me this week was you can't fix lazy, and you're talking about people who are reluctant to park in certain lots north of Main Street, the firehouse lot, and are looking instead to only park in front of the restaurant that they're going to.
Exactly.
So part of paid parking might be a way to encourage, would be paid parking for premium spots in a premium lot, but encourage people to go to other lots where there isn't paid parking that may be underutilized. Is that correct?
Yes.
So people are lazy?
Yes.
Can I share a thought on that?
You know, we've had, there's been a couple of applications or discussions with groups that want to use like Seafields parking, which is pretty much completely vacant at night. So you could pull up and there'd be valet parking, let's say at the Playhouse. They bring the cars down, put them in that parking lot, and they pay Seafield to use it. It doesn't seem like it's taken off very well. I think it's probably because of lack of advertising, but that parking lot's sitting there vacant most of the time at night, and during the daytime it's different. So for places like that, if you could ever get it to work and get people to pay to use a valet.
The guy that's doing, is it the same guy from Patchogue?
Yes.
Yes.
Doing it?
Yes.
It's very successful in Patchogue, right?
Yes.
The issue is not so much that we can't do something like that, but the pickup drop off
Right.
is the problem. Having a car
can
stop
create
on
more
Main
of a
Street.
traffic jam. than-
Yeah, so if somebody is going to the pack and they want to stop right in front, they're going to have to get out of their car and into their car, and where are you going to do that? So that's
So you could have a drop-off point, but people are lazy. So
yeah. Well, you could have a drop-off point, but then you'd have to have another lot agree to the drop-off point and a circulation so that people can cross safely, get to where they're going. Not all of them are going to the pack. Some are going to a restaurant. So where you would do that and not interrupt the traffic
right.
For safety reasons.
Sag Harbor has specific spots for Ubers and that
Yes.
type of thing where you
Yes,
could do
something like
drop-offs
that.
and pickups.
Right. Right.
Did you?
Well, I just wanted to point out, the parking problem is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Better than vacancy.
We have that problem because of the fabulous revitalization and our community. So, but I got a lot of faith in our boards to solve it.
Absolutely. There's a question over here.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Liz. I'm a 25-year resident. I love the village, all the surrounding areas, and thank you all very much. I think the Chamber's doing a great job. I work at the PAC also, so I hear the parking. I'm the bar manager. I hear when people come in, I can't park, I can't, all that. A couple of things. I think those lots that you talk about, I'm not sure if it's so much lazy or people who come into our town don't know about it. They don't know where they are.
Yes.
One of the things I remember that Mayor Moore did right where the Salton Loft was, that she revitalized that lot.
Yes.
And it was a picnic area for a while until somebody decided to build on it.
Yes.
Why not talk to where that bed and breakfast was supposed to go across the street from One Trick Pony? Talk to them about making a parking lot right on Main Street. And then if somebody's going to start to build or do something, then convert it back over. And I mean, I know that she's done that where that old gas station was, I think for $1.
Yes.
Is
That
there
was-
land like that we
was a
could
very,
possibly?
proactive thing Maria did, and it was $10 a year, and it worked out very well for everyone. And yes, we have approached other property owners with the same concept, with little traction. You have to have a property owner that's willing to cooperate, and because we can't force a lot of these things. And going back to the parking, the valet drop-off, the valet that we were working with and we're encouraging to start trying to operate in the village, we encountered a situation where drop-off points, if we were going to dedicate it, which the valet wanted, to that valet, then we'd have to put out an RFP to see if any other businesses, valets would be interested and bid on it, because that's a use of village property like a concession. So we come into these legal ramifications for all these concepts. And we do try to think out of the box for a lot of things. The zip line, I don't think so. But I have to admit, for moving the windmill, we did consider a helicopter. We did. But
I
the
love the
prop wash
windmill.
was a big issue for the surrounding area, so.
Well, the good news is we're a victim of our own success, right?
Right,
And we're really
exactly.
becoming a destination area, which is wonderful for not only the residents, but new people coming into the area and stuff. So thank you all.
We do thank you for all the ideas and the input. And a lot of them we have explored in the past, but doesn't mean we can't explore again.
We've also explored having some kind of mapping system with where the lots are, and if you know, in the future, if they're free, if there's time limit, what the time limit is on Main Street, and it would be something that the PAC could put on their website so that people know before they come to the show where they can park. Whether it's the fire department lot or somewhere, you know, down the street, at least they would know where to go, which might help their frustration when they get to you. So we did talk about that. I'm sure we're going to talk about it again, and what that would look like. And, you know, once we figure out what the hourly limits and paid and all of that's going to be, that will be together.
Yeah, and don't forget, before a show even starts, at least 30 people are going to the theater.
Yes.
From volunteers to crew to security. And then you get 465 people, which is probably about 300 cars.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
Yes.
Jennifer, what role can business owners and employees play in easing some of the tension around parking? I know in other villages there's been discussions about shuttle buses for employees, or just encouraging employees and business owners to park at the less utilized lots rather than right in front of their stores and restaurants. And I know that can be an issue if you're a parent with kids and you think you're going to have to get back to them right away. But are there solutions that business owners and employees can take in partnership with the village to kind
Definitely.
of ease some of that?
I actually was just taking some notes of some things to bring up at our next chamber meeting from some of the things I've heard here. But also, I mean, we have repeatedly brought up shuttle buses and if it could be a possibility, but the same issues arise, like where would they be and how would we coordinate it? And sometimes it's just the timing, and it's just, you know, a very small block of time where you would need that. As a business owner, the employees have a specific place they are to park, and sometimes, you know, some leniency on, you know, being late or encouraging people to arrive early or get dropped off. You know, no matter what age you are, can get a ride. And so I think it would take and this is actually a good point to bring up at some of the networking events that members and non-members come to throughout the year to talk about, because this is a common thread in things that people bring up. I think it's just like acknowledging and educating, talking about, you know, getting somewhere early, getting a ride, you know, even as a business person, as I'm doing hiring for that bulk season, talking about how you would get to work, which is something maybe we just don't think of because we take it for granted 12 months out of the year, but just talking about different opportunities and ideas on how to get there. And nobody wants to be stressed out looking for parking, arrive to where they're going late, not be able to get a whole bunch of delicious drinks at the bar before the show. So I think it's just something to keep talking about and keep educating people about. And, you know, like I said, I took some notes here, maybe bring to the next meeting, think about how we could partner and, you know, fix or just at least help talk about some of these issues.
We've got about 5 minutes left. Any other questions?
Hi. A question on those two buildings, and it's funny how that Bill DeConso. That was the first topic, so I guess everybody drives by them all the time. As far as the abandonment of the non-conforming use is concerned, whether that building's up or down, they've lost all rights. I mean, it's been over a decade. Usually, I think it's like 12 months of non-conforming use. Once you abandon it, it's done. You got to come back.
I think the gas station, that
Gas
may
station
be
use
correct.
is gone.
But
Yes.
Dora's, I think they do still have density there, and they also do have. I think somebody had mentioned that they do. I think Larry, they do have a residence behind.
Right, the red house.
So
there.
that's going to be, you know, more flow, which would, you know, it's a little bit tricky on that side. But you are correct.
Has the village ever looked into condemning the property and giving it to or selling it to another developer who's actually going to utilize it? The courts have obviously, allow you to do that.
Yes, both buildings are structurally sound. The gas station and the Doors building itself, They have been deemed structurally sound, so we have looked into condemning them. We have inspected them. The existing, well, the unused gas station does have gas tanks still, and a resident brought that up to me, and they are abandoned gas tanks, but they still are inspected regularly by Suffolk County, and they pass. So all these things are just, they're in limbo because of it's a very difficult situation. But hopefully,
We are working on
we
it.
are, hopefully we get a new
working
owner
on
or a
it.
new
comes up a lot at
situation.
your
It
meetings.
does
Yes,
come
it
up
does.
a lot.
Talked about it.
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard too because we are not the owners of the property, and we want people who do own property in the village to to develop it and make it nice and maintain it, but we don't want to make it harder for people. So we're trying.
respect
We want
property
to
rights
respect
as well,
property
right?
rights, and we have to legally. So we also, but we are looking into moving something forward, and also, having discussions with CPF and trying to figure out what we can do there.
Okay. I think we're just about out of time. I did want to talk about beach parking permits, but we'll have to save that for next one, give you guys a little break.
Okay.
Any other final questions from the audience, or we'll close it up? Any final thoughts from
Well,
from the
yeah,
panel?
Bill, thank you. I just want to give a shout out to my 1976 Westhampton Beach High School Hurricane classmates, Diane
Woohoo.
Sullivan and Mary Pelicane in the back. And we're going to celebrate our 50th this year.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. Good. I think we're all set. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Video will be posted online if you want to pick it up.